Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Wenzel, Freepod host, thanking you for tuning in to this week's Freepod interview. Much has transpired on the campus of Highland Community College since we last visited with Highland's president, Chris Kuberski, almost a year ago, last spring. In particular, plans for the new Athletic Learning Center project have moved forward, and today, Chris joins us to catch us up a little bit on what's happening with that particular project. Chris, thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Alan. I'm happy to share what's going on at Highland.
Well, let's talk about the Athletic and Learning Center project, which I know has been on the drawing board here for some time now. Can you catch us up a little bit and remind us what is the purpose of this new center and what do you hope to accomplish with this new facility on campus?
Sure. So the idea really originated with the athletic strategic plan several years ago. And in that plan, it was an effort to stabilize enrollment and grow enrollment. As you know, there's a predicted demographic cliff, enrollment cliff. And what we see, it's already happened in Highlands region. And so one of the strategies that we have to combat that is to consider expanding our athletic teams and our academic programs so that we can attract more students to Highland. We know that Highland is an economic engine for this region, and we want to make sure it's stable and sustainable for many years to come. So this project really has dual purpose. It's to grow our academic programs and to grow our enrollment through athletic teams and enhancing the teams that we already have, making sure that they have full rosters and that they are attractive to potential students.
Chris, I know a question that a lot of our listeners will have about the project and the new building would be exactly what will be contained in the building. What will it look like when you walk inside that facility 5 years from now?
So the building will be reimagined. The gymnasium was recently redone, so it will stay intact. We plan to relocate the esports competitive team room over to the new building. We also plan to, we envision a new fitness center, and that will be upstairs. And then we will have new locker rooms, more space for teams to meet, for coaches to have offices and those things. But we also that will all be the remodel part of the current facility. And then we will expand by adding a field house, which will be an indoor turf area for baseball, softball to practice.
Okay.
We would also like to add soccer as a competitive team, so that will give them indoor space to practice. And then we will have a connecting ramp that connects the current sports facility to the childcare facility. And the childcare facility will be repurposed to house academic programs.
Oh, I see. Okay. And because this project involves the relocation of some of the activities in the current athletic facility to other locations, specifically the YMCA will be finding a new spot for some of the programming that they work with. So it's a project that involves a collaboration, if you will, between the Highland and the Y to make sure that the goals of both organizations are met in this project as this project unfolds. Can you talk a little bit, Chris, about what the college and the Y have been doing to make sure that their goals for the organization, for both organizations, are realized?
Yes. So we, as you know, we have a 50-year contract with the Y, and it expires in January of 2030. And so about 2.5-3 years ago, we started having what we called task force meetings with members of the Y and their board and members of Highland administration and 2 of our board members. And really, it was to explore what that partnership might look like. We both recognized that we had growth opportunities, but the building was stifling that because really we had outgrown the space together. So just kind of to put it in context, the Y, when the agreement first was made, the Y had no childcare, and Highland had 4 academic or competitive teams. Today, Highland has 11 competitive teams, and the Y serves over 100 children and has 2 campus locations for that. So really, both entities were growing, which is what you want, and serving the community in different ways. But we were literally on top of each other in that space.
Well, the needs were evolving for each organization in a little different ways than maybe what were originally envisioned 50 years ago when that facility was first built.
Right, because 50 years ago, childcare was not needed in the way that it is today. And I also would point out that contract had no touch points. So there was no review spots along the way. So you can imagine how things change in 50 years. I think it's pretty incredible that our partnership was maintained and it was as healthy as it was. And so as we started having those conversations, I think it prompted the Y to engage in their own strategic plan, which led them to believe that they could enhance their own services to the community better if they relocated, which then presents the opportunity for Highland to utilize the space
a little differently,
very differently than what it has been. The child care facility, for example, will be repurposed for academic programs. We're exploring different ones, particularly physical therapy assistant. We're utilizing a company called Lightcast to do a program gap analysis and to collect data to see if that program has viability and sustainability for the workforce in our area. Will it be attractive to students? And will it also, provide the right level of workforce needs in our area? It would be a regional program, so that also has a way to entice students from outside of our district. So those are some of the things Highland is doing to prepare, and then the Y, of course, is doing many of their own explorations and have their own plans. But we continue to meet with them on a monthly basis to continue to talk about the partnership as it is, the opportunities that we can work on together, and then where those separations may need to be different and how things might need to be different as we move forward.
I think it's important to note that you've been meeting monthly and will continue to do that probably throughout this project's duration to make sure that you stay in touch with each other's organizational needs and touch points, as you might call them, to make sure that we're all on the same page as we work forward through this agreement.
Yes, and we are very supportive of their initiative, and they're very supportive of ours, and that's what you would hope, because both organizations see that what we have in our plans will better serve our community, and that's ultimately what the goal of each organization is. So
tell me, what specific actions have been taken by the Highland Board of Trustees regarding this project?
So October was an important month as it relates to this project. It was then that the board authorized the college to move forward with this project. There had really not been any formal vote prior to that, other than when they voted on the feasibility study that was done in 23. And so that was a monumental moment, because it really gave the college the green light to continue to explore and move forward with the project. And that decision was preceded by lots of conversations and discussions, I'm sure. Oh, yes. About 2.5 years worth, or maybe 3. Because we finished that feasibility study in 23. And so this didn't happen until the end of 25. So really almost every quarter when we have a board retreat, we are updating the board on the status of the project, what we've discovered. Most recently, they've seen the draft plans of the floor plan for the building. We've talked about the timeline, when we would need to hire a construction manager, when we anticipate a shovel, when we anticipate moving in, all those kinds of things. We really try to keep the board well informed as we move through the project. Well, lots of information is fed to the policymakers, the decision makers, and deliberations occur, and you get to a point in October where the board gave the college the green light to go ahead with this project. Yes. Now there will be other votes that come, that will also be determine whether we go to the next step. But at this point, we are working with the architect to, finalize the scope of the project and do some of those things so that we know exactly what we're encountering and what the project will entail. And then we'll take some of those things back to the board for their approval, and that will keep the project moving. Are you able to share with our listeners any specific timelines or deadlines that have been set, or is that all still pretty fluid? It's somewhat fluid. A lot of Highland's timeline is dependent on the Y's timeline.
Okay.
And we know that the Y is intending to move out of the child care facility. Their goal is to be relocated in May of 27. So that building would be open in that time frame. At this point, they're still not sure when they're going to move the rest of their facilities out. If Highland's timeline would stand the test of time, we would like to have a shovel for the expansion piece and the remodeling to start in the summer of 28, so that would be ready by the fall of 29. That doesn't quite align with what the Y is thinking at this time. So that's part of what we keep talking about, thinking about if there are ways that we could help support them. And also if they are not going to be able to relocate sooner than 2030, then we will need to adjust our timeline.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the early child care program, and obviously the college and the Y have worked very closely together to make that program very successful. Can you talk a little bit about the transition period for that? What's going to be happening with that program in the next 2 or 3 years? You mentioned that the Y is planning to move that fairly quickly, or by next year, by May of 2027. What will happen here on campus with the early childhood program? What do you see occurring in this transition period before the new building gets done?
So we intend that our programs will still be partners. We depend on the Y for basically observation, and they depend on us for new teachers. And so that part of the partnership, I think we know is going to be expanded and continue. We will still keep our early childhood education classroom on campus in its current location. We're planning to expand it and give it a little bit bigger footprint. And then we know that the Y is intending to double their child care.
Oh, okay.
So in that process, we're hoping that some more of our students will help them with their needs, and that we will have observation space in their new facility and a place where our students can meet before or after class. And so we've been in conversations with what that should look like. And I know that our early childhood education faculty member has been working very closely with the Y childhood director to make sure that the space will accommodate the needs of our students as they learn about becoming providers.
It seems like that's a little different aspect of the program than just simply putting up a different building. You're talking about transitioning a program from one location kind of to another and continue to do some things jointly. I'm imagining that this is probably receiving some top priority in terms of the thinking of both the Y and the college. How can we make sure that there are no breaks in this program or in what we're offering to our students and to the community?
Yes, and I know one of the Y's primary goals is to make sure that the disruption of childcare is minimal. And so we're talking about what we need to do to help them be able to not close for any length of time. And so that's part of our conversation. How can we help support you when you move so that there isn't disruption? It doesn't have a negative ripple effect. So those aspects are very important for us, but certainly important to them. And so those are the kinds of things that we continue to talk about.
I'm glad to hear that and our listeners should be glad to hear that this child care program and the early childhood program conducted by the college will continue and even grow, because there's such a need for that, as you mentioned, Chris, in the community and in our region for good child care.
Yes, and that program has maintained strong enrollment, and we know that there is a certain need. And so our faculty member, Melissa Johnson, has done yeoman's work at the state level, too, to make sure that we're well informed of what the changes are, because that field changes quickly.
Oh, I bet.
And so I think we're very well positioned to continue that program and to continue serving the needs of the area with good childcare providers.
How many years has that program been in place? Let's kind of go back 25, 30 years.
I would think it was
or
here well
longer.
before I came to Highland.
So we know what we're doing here. The college is very adept at knowing how to deliver good childcare programming, how to keep up with the changes in state regulations and requirements. And so it's not like a new business here at all.
No, not at all. In fact, Melissa serves on state committees. She's very respected throughout the state. She is retiring, and so we're in the process of finding a new faculty member. But it's a very solid program, and it has growth potential.
It's been a real strength of the partnership between the college and the Y, and I bet a lot of our listeners may not even be very aware of all the good things that program has done in the past 30, 35 years for the area.
Yes, because currently our child care classroom is in the child care building.
Right.
So that will be a little bit of a change. But our students will still have a very clear presence in the Y facility because they observe the children as part of their learning, but they also come into the classroom and, in their terms, they do their own clinical or their own learning observation, just as a student teacher would. And so the Y is an integral part of the success of our program, but then that's also a time for the Y to watch those potential teachers and see which ones they might be interested in, employing or having work as supplementary instructors in their facility as well.
And our students, I'm sure Highland students fan out all over the district after they go through the program and work in a number of different places that provide childcare and provides a real service to Northwest Illinois.
Oh, yes. I believe if you were to ask around, probably the majority of the childcare providers in our district at some point have been touched by Highland.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. As we think about this project for the new athletic and learning center for the college, what aspects of the project would you like to get accomplished in the next 4 to 6 months, Chris? What's first and foremost on your list of, let's get this done?
So at this point, really locking in the timeline and knowing when the Y believes they will relocate and how we can support them in that. And we also know we're going to have disruption when we start the project, because basically we're going to be out of the facility for a year. And so, our thought is, how can we help them and they help us in that disruption, because we're still going to need, athletic equipment. We're still going to need a place for our students to work out and those kinds of things. So how might we work through that together for the good of both entities? We also know that because we're going to have disruption, our athletic director is already working with some of the area schools to see where we might have our volleyball games, for example, or will we need to have all away games for basketball that season? Those kinds of things we're trying to work through. And then we're also looking at, we had looked at the operational cost initially, but we're looking at it again now and making sure that we have a good idea of what it will cost, when we open the doors, and make sure that we have the resources available to make that smooth as well. So those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping we have clarity on by June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
But really that timeline is probably the most important in my mind, because everything else ripples
we'll
from that.
We'll spin off of that. Sure. Exactly. There probably, you've shared a lot of good information here today about this project. And I'm sure that community members will have a lot of questions moving forward as to what this project is about and the reasons for it and how it's going to come to fruition. What are the most important things you'd like our listeners to know about this project? If you had 2 or 3 or 4 really important messages for the community about this project, what would they be?
So I think understanding the purpose, that it's really to provide opportunities for increased enrollment by both expanding our athletic teams and enhancing our academic programs. We're trying to create a sustainable future for Highland. We know that Highland plays a critical role in workforce development, and the economic ecosystem in our region. And we see this Reimagine project as an investment in Highland sustainability for the future. So I think that is the underlying reason that this project came to be. I also think it's really important for our recruitment. Many other schools have much better facilities than we do. And when our students, our potential students go to other campuses and they see what those campuses have, if we don't have comparable facilities and equipment, then we lose out on really good students. And so that is also part of this. We have, in the last 5 years, we've spent $18.1 million on facility enhancements across campus. And this really becomes the capstone project so that all of our facilities are up to date and prepped for the future.
I think another important message I've heard from you today, Chris, is that there are lots of good people spending a lot of time regularly getting together and meeting to make sure this project is successful.
Oh, yes. So in addition to the Y task force, which is the Highland team and the Y team meeting together, there are internal teams at Highland that are gathering, the athletic director and the coaches are looking at the space again and making sure that they give the architect good direction. There's a team that's looking at the financial aspect. There's a team that's looking at the timeline. Many of those are the same people, but in different, collaboration moments, and then, of course, marketing is doing a lot of work trying to get the word out. And we recently had an information meeting. So marketing is involved in that. We're talking about our communication plan, which Freepod is part of that, making sure that the community is aware of the project, the purpose, the scope, the why, and how it will benefit not just our students, but the community as a whole.
And, of course, the regular meetings with the YMCA and the folks that are involved in the project from that end are sitting down with the college on a regular basis to make sure that we're all aligned in what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Oh, yes. And then I've also been attending the meetings that the Y has been having for potential partners. So in addition to the meeting that we have together, we've been very present for those meetings too, so that we're well informed and are supporting the Y in that way as well.
Chris, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us today about the events connected to this plan for the new Athletic Learning Center on the campus of Highland Community College and all the work that you and the Y have been doing to make sure that the ongoing needs of the community can still be met through our services to residents of the area. We appreciate your time. Thanks for sitting down with us today. This is Alan Wenzel, reminding you to tune into our regular news podcast every Thursday at noon on all major podcast platforms, and to tune into our interviews, which drop every Tuesday at noon in those same locations. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, Alan.
And thanks go out to the Mass Communications Department at Highland Community College for producing these podcasts for Freepod. Thank you for listening.